If you watch the Pawn Stars long enough, you're gonna go and notice things in terms of certain items that are either highly valued by them or have a certain affinity for selling well. As Rick Harrison is happy to note, one of those things is guitars. But why? Well, everyone loves guitars, recognizes them, and if they're attached to someone really special, they can sell really quickly and for a whole lot of cash. As such, Rick and the others are always happy to go and get guitars when they come into the show. Allow me to show you some of the best they've seen. But first, do me a favor, leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. And with that being said, let's get started. Do you want to win an iPhone 12? Maybe a MacBook Pro? How about $500 cash? All you have to do is comment the secret hidden message somewhere in this video. That's it. Oh, and leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel so we can keep affording these giveaways. Winner will be announced at the last day of each month. Thanks for watching and good luck. Number 7, the Def Leppard Guitar.
So I'm assuming this is a guitar, not a gun?
It is a guitar.
Okay.
It's a very special guitar. One of a kind.
It's a very colorful guitar.
As we noted before, Rick Harrison loves to buy and sell guitars, and he's had plenty of them come into his shop. But one day a woman came in and claimed that she had a guitar that once belonged to Phil Collins of the legendary group Def Leppard.
It is very colorful and beautiful too, you have to admit. Painted and played by Phil Collins of Def Leppard.
Holy
Yes.
Naturally, Rick was excited for this, and the only obstacle was proving that it did indeed belong to Colin. So, as he usually did, he called in an expert, and they confirmed that it was indeed the Def Leppard guitar. But he felt he knew someone who could better verify it, and so he called in Joe Elliott and Phil Collins of Def Leppard to come in and appraise the guitar themselves.
But I know somebody that knows quite a bit more about the artwork end of this. I'm not an art guy at all.
Whoa.
Oh my God.
Yes, they really did that. That lady's day was made, and we're sure Rick loved it as well, especially after Colin not only confirmed it was his guitar, but he played on it for them all. In the end, Rick paid $8,500 for the guitar, and he got to see a rock legend in action on the very guitar he was about to buy.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the ones I did.
Come back to roost. Okay.
Definitely works.
We bet he mentioned that to whoever he sold it to. Number 6, Gibson Master Museum Acoustic Guitar.
This is the most beautiful acoustic guitar you have ever seen. A Gibson Custom Shop SJ200.
Oh, what's so nice about this?
Whoa, okay.
Now let's talk about a guitar that was so valuable that Corey Harrison made sure Chumley didn't touch it, because a customer came in and showed them a Gibson Master Museum acoustic guitar, serial number 1. It was made by Ren Ferguson.
This guitar was built by a man named Ren Ferguson, and he is one of the most respected guitar luthiers in the world. And this was actually the very first Master Museum.
One of the most legendary luthiers in history, and someone who worked for Gibson as a guitar designer for 25 years. The guitar itself was pristine, and because it was a Master Museum piece, meaning it was a very special selection of that particular guitar, it was an incredibly rare thing to have, let alone serial number 1. By the customer's own admission, he'd only played it once for a few minutes before putting it back to keep it intact. The customer wanted 50 grand for it, but Corey wasn't so sure, so he called in an expert who confirmed it was the presidential model of guitars and said it could be worth 50 to 60 grand because it was the first one.
This is as good as it gets. This is the Rolex presidential of Gibson guitars. Man, I mean, easily 50 to 60 grand, I would think.
They settled for $48,000, but then the customer got seller's remorse, and so he decided he couldn't sell it.
I just don't think I can part with it.
Oh man, I can't force you, but if you change your mind, I'll be here, all right?
All right, I'm sorry, man.
Take care.
Big Hoss, I'll have some of that money.
Number 5, Stephen Stills 1941 Gibson guitar.
This is a 1941 Gibson SJ200. It was owned by Stephen Stills of the band Crosby, Stills and Nash.
That is cool. I would absolutely love.
Stephen Stills was a member of the rock and roll group Crosby, Stills and Nash, and is a legendary guitar player. When a young man showed up with a guitar claiming to have been from Stills, it did not take very long before an expert verified the authenticity of it. Jesse, his local guitar expert, loved the guitar, a rare 1941 Gibson SJ2000, and even let the owner know about it. The guitar itself was worth $75,000.
It's an expensive guitar, man.
Okay.
I mean, the guitar on its own is probably worth anywhere between 75 and 90 grand just by itself.
At least. But being owned by Stephen Stills turned that price up another $20,000. After he left, the negotiation began with the seller looking for $90,000, but Rick offered $85,000 and eventually struck a deal.
I've got to have 90.
Okay. Change your mind, call me.
85, man.
All right.
I thought it was a fair price.
No doubt making Rick very happy in the process for having yet another very special guitar in his collection. Number 4, Gibson SG Les Paul.
Oh, I got a guitar.
Okay.
This belonged to my Aunt Mary.
Les Paul SG.
Aunt Mary just a guitar fan, or? No, Les Paul's wife.
One day, a customer brought in a Gibson guitar that was once owned by a woman named Mary Ford. That name may not mean anything to you, but her husband was Les Paul, a man who many guitar fans will know. Les Paul was not only an accomplished singer and songwriter, including writing several big hits with his wife Mary, his use of the solid body electric guitar was one of the things that changed the world of music in a positive way. So to have a guitar that was owned by him and was a custom model was a big score for Rick and the Pawn Star crew. The customer actually wanted a whopping $250,000 for the price, but Rick was able to whittle that down to well below half that, getting it for $90,000. By his own admission, this is the most money he's ever spent on a guitar for his shop.
Big thing is, how much you want for it now?
Well, I was thinking $250,000 would do it.
You know, a few years ago, maybe. I mean, there's not as many buyers in the market. You know, I mean, Jesse was saying right around maybe 150 would happen.
Yet he could justify the purchase because of it being verified as a Les Paul guitar and the history that came with it. Having a guitar owned by Les Paul is definitely something Rick never expected to come into his shop, though he was no doubt happy it did.
Okay, well, if you want to pay $90, you can have it.
All right, $90,000.
Deal.
All right, write it up.
Come on, man, we got a lot of paperwork to do.
Number 3, Jimi Hendrix guitar. Here's a transaction that didn't go well for the Pawn Stars at all. This all started with a guitar, but not just any guitar. This particular guitar was one that was claimed to have been played by the legend known as Jimi Hendrix. Hendrix was a master on the guitar, and his tracks are still beloved to this day despite the shifting genres. Thus, a guitar owned by him is valuable. Naturally, Rick was dubious at first when the claim was mentioned, even with the documentation. So he called in an expert to verify that not only was this a guitar of the right era, but that it was indeed Hendrix's. Sure enough, the expert verified that everything the seller was saying was true, and even went on to say that the value of this piece was a whopping $1 million. Remember, this is Jimi Hendrix's guitar, and his name carries a lot of weight and value. Rick did his usual haggling as he needed to make some profit on the deal, but for whatever reason the seller wouldn't budge from his price of $7,500,000, even when Rick was offering $600,000. So no deal was made. The dealer himself even said to the camera that he knew he had something of value and wasn't desperate to sell it. That's not the end of the story though, because later on it was revealed that the person who bought it was the expert whom Rick called in. Number 2, Vic Flick's 1961 Stratocaster guitar.
Oh, this is your guitar?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a 1961 Fender Stratocaster.
The Fender Telecaster is up there with the most iconic rock guitars in history.
Here's another one that didn't exactly go well for the Pawn Stars. Vic Flick is a guitarist who you might not have heard of, yet he's been involved in some of the biggest records in history. In addition to working with the Beatles, Eric Clapton, Tom Jones, John Williams, and Nancy Sinatra, Flick's iconic guitar playing is featured in just about every 007 movie as the lead player on the James Bond theme. Given Flick's fame and the fact that he was offering the relatively pricey guitar to the shop in person, Rick Harrison knew there was a deal to be made, but he wasn't sure on the price until consulting with guitar expert Jesse Amoroso. After examining the axe and discussing it with Rick and Vic, it was decided $55,000 was the perfect price for it.
Easily $60,000, $70,000. This is cool. This is like beyond cool.
If you say it's cool, you say it's cool.
This was a mistake, as Rick would learn, because while the guitar did indeed have a name that was important to music history, that didn't mean that everyone exactly knew who that person was. It remained sitting on the shelves of the gold and silver pawn shop for some time because people just weren't interested in it.
We take 50 grand for it.
Would you go 60?
I will go $55,000. All right?
Deal. Yeah, okay.
Then when he tried to sell it at auction, it didn't sell well at all, making it one of the rare times that Rick Harrison busted after buying a guitar. Number 1, 1952 Fender Telecaster. Finally, we have a customer in Daniel, who decided to sell his grandfather's 1952 Fender Telecaster. If you don't know, this was basically the first true fully electric guitar. Once so famous, it was used by Johnny Cash during his iconic song, I Walk the Line. Not surprisingly, Corey Harrison wanted to make sure the customer's asking price of $13,000 wasn't too high, so he brought in a guitar expert Jesse to verify things. Sure enough, not only was it verified, it was worth more than the customer wanted, up to 30 grand if things went well. After some haggling, Corey got it for 13,000 and the customer had money for college. And there you have it, everyone, a look at the times when the guitars were brought into the gold and silver pawn shop and how the Pawn Stars responded to the beauty that was before them. Are you shocked that so many special guitars came to the Pawn Stars? Or does it just make you realize how lucky the Pawn Stars are? Which of these guitars stood out to you? Go ahead and let me know in the comments down below. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time on the channel.